The alien queen's unexpected news. Our child will change everything human. The Xylar were unlike any species humans had ever met. Their bodies shimmered with faint bioluminescence, and their minds seemed to process information faster than the most advanced human computers. They were clever, strong, and, above all, cautious. Human commander Elias Varn knew this better than anyone. For nearly 10 years, he had been part of the negotiations that tried to bring peace between the two civilizations. It was not an easy task. Every meeting, every conversation was a delicate dance. One wrong word could spark war. Still, Elias believed it was possible. Humanity and the Xylar could coexist, perhaps even thrive together. Today, Elias had received a summons from the Xylar Queen herself. Such invitations were rare and often carried serious undertones. He had anticipated another discussion about trade disputes or territorial boundaries. But as his shuttle entered the orbit of the Xylar throne world, he felt a nervous excitement. The planet below was breathtaking. Towering crystal-like spires stretched from the surface, reflecting the pale light of the twin suns. Flying vessels, sleek and elegant, glided between the towers with precision. Elias could see Xylar citizens moving in coordinated patterns, their luminescent forms casting colorful shadows across the streets. There was a beauty in their order, a grace in their discipline. The shuttle docked in the Queen's palace, a massive structure of crystal and metal that seemed alive, pulsating gently as if it had a heartbeat. Elias stepped out, his boots clicking against the smooth floor. He was greeted by several Xylar guards, their bodies glowing softly, their eyes intelligent and unreadable. "Commander Varn," said the lead guard in a voice that seemed to hum more than speak. "The Queen awaits you." Elias nodded, his hands clasped behind his back. "Thank you. Please lead the way." As he followed the guards through corridors that shimmered with light and energy, Elias' mind raced. What could the Queen want? He had attended countless diplomatic meetings, but this felt different. There was an unusual stillness in the air, a weight that pressed on him. Finally, he entered the throne room. It was larger than any room he had ever seen, with ceilings that stretched high into the glowing sky above. In the center sat the Xylar Queen, her presence commanding yet serene. Her skin glowed with a soft, golden light, and her eyes, large and radiant, seemed to see into the very core of his being. "Commander Elias Varn," she said, her voice melodic but firm. "You have come." "I did, Your Majesty," Elias replied, bowing slightly. "I received your summons." The Queen's gaze softened. "There is much to discuss, but first I will tell you something you did not expect." She paused, letting the moment stretch. "We are to have a child, our child." Elias blinked. The words echoed in his mind, refusing to settle. "A child," he repeated, unsure if he had heard correctly. "Our child," the Queen nodded. "Yes, this child is yours as much as mine." For a moment, Elias could not respond. His mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. Shock, confusion, disbelief. How was this possible? He and the Queen had shared many discussions, some moments of connection, but he had never imagined something like this. This is impossible," he said finally, though his voice was quieter than he intended. "How can this happen?" The Queen's eyes softened further. "There are ways that surpass your understanding, Elias. What matters now is that this child exists. And this child will change everything. Human and Xylar alike will feel the impact of its birth." Elias took a step back, trying to process the enormity of the revelation. Change everything. Could she mean it literally? He had seen Xylar capabilities in action, witnessed their intelligence and power firsthand, but the idea of a hybrid child capable of altering the balance between two civilizations, it was overwhelming. "Your Majesty," he said cautiously, I need time to understand this." "You may have time," she replied calmly, "but you must also understand the responsibility. This child is not only a bridge between our species, it is also a target." There are those among the Xylar who would see this child as a threat, and even some humans may not trust what is to come. You must protect it, as must I. Elias swallowed hard. He had faced countless battles in his life, commanded fleets in dangerous space conflicts, and negotiated peace under pressure. But this was different. This was personal, and it carried stakes beyond anything he had known. "I understand, Your Majesty," he said finally, his voice steady despite the storm inside him. "I will do everything I can to protect you and the child." The Queen inclined her head. "Good. For now, let us discuss the immediate concerns. The news of the child has not yet spread. It must be kept secret until we are ready. Any premature revelation could provoke fear, anger, or worse." Elias nodded. "Agreed. I will ensure discretion." For the next hour, they spoke in careful tones, planning the measures needed to secure the Queen and her unborn child. They discussed security protocols, the allocation of loyal Xylar guards, and discreet communication channels with human authorities. Elias felt a mixture of awe and fear. The Queen's abilities and knowledge were beyond anything he had imagined, and the child she carried was already shaping the future even before birth. As the meeting concluded, the Queen stood, her presence radiant. "You must also prepare yourself, Elias. This will not be an easy path. Fear and doubt will arise from both sides, but remember this, the child carries hope. Hope that humans and Xylar can coexist, hope that a new era can begin." Elias bowed deeply. "I will do my best, Your Majesty." "For you, for the child, and for the future." The Queen's lips curved in a gentle smile. "That is all I ask. Now go, rest, prepare, and remain vigilant. The journey has only begun." As Elias left the throne room, his mind was racing. He had entered expecting political discussions, but he now faced something far greater. The future of two civilizations, the life of a child unlike any other, and the responsibility of bridging worlds, all rested on a delicate balance that could tip with a single misstep. Outside the palace, the twin suns of the Xylar homeworld shone brightly, reflecting off the crystal towers and painting the city in colors he had no words to describe. Elias paused for a moment, taking it all in. There was beauty here, yes, but also fragility. A fragility that now extended to the child he was told would change everything. As he returned to his quarters, Elias thought about the people of Earth, who would one day hear the news of the hybrid child. Would they accept it, fear it, worship it? And what about the Xylar? Would their loyalty to the Queen hold, or would factions rise to challenge what they did not understand? Sleep came fitfully that night. Dreams of shimmering cities, glowing aliens, and a child with the power to shape destiny filled his mind. Yet within those dreams there was also a sense of purpose, a quiet determination that he had never felt so strongly. He had faced challenges before, but none like this. He had to be ready. For the Queen, for the child, for the fragile hope of two worlds united. The next morning, Elias began his duties with renewed focus. He walked through the corridors of the palace, observing the Xylar citizens going about their lives. There was an elegance in their movements, a precision in their actions, but also a warmth in the light that radiated from their bodies. It reminded him that beneath their strength and intelligence, they were living beings with hopes, fears, and dreams, just like humans. He met with the Queen again briefly, receiving updates on her condition and the precautions being taken. Each moment he spent with her reinforced the gravity of what was happening. This child was more than a symbol or a curiosity. It was a bridge, a potential savior, and perhaps even a force that could prevent conflict for generations to come. Yet, Elias could not shake the unease that lingered at the edges of his mind. The Xylar were powerful, but they were not uniform in thought or desire. There would be those who saw the child as a threat to tradition, to power, or to their way of life. And on the human side, fear of the unknown often led to suspicion, even hostility. Elias realized that the road ahead would require patience, courage, and unwavering vigilance. He spent the day reviewing security plans, coordinating with Xyler guards, and communicating discreetly with trusted human officials. Every decision, every conversation was made with the child in mind. The child's safety, the queen's safety, and the fragile hope for peace rested squarely on his shoulders. As night fell, Elias stood once more on the balcony of his quarters, looking out at the twin suns setting behind the crystal towers. The city glowed softly, a mixture of light and shadow, beauty and mystery. In that quiet moment he allowed himself a rare feeling: hope. Hope that together, humans and Xyler could overcome fear and mistrust. Hope that this child, born of two worlds, could truly change everything. And hope that he, Elias Varn, could rise to the challenge that fate had unexpectedly placed before him. The uneasy truce between humans and Xyler had become something far more personal. And as Elias closed his eyes that night, he knew that nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. The news of the Queen's child spread slowly, but the impact rippled through both civilizations like a hidden current. On Earth, human leaders debated behind closed doors. Some saw the unborn child as a symbol of hope, a bridge to a new era of understanding and cooperation. Others feared the unknown. A hybrid child, half human, half Xyler, was unprecedented. Could humans trust it? Could they even control its influence if the child's abilities surpassed human understanding? Commander Elias Varn was caught between two worlds. He understood the potential for hope, but he also knew that not everyone shared the same vision. The Queen's announcement had changed everything. Every alliance, every plan, every calculation now included a variable that was impossible to measure. He could not predict how humans or Xyler would react once the news fully emerged. On the Xyler homeworld, the reaction was just as complex. The Queen's court was divided. Loyalists supported her and the child, seeing the hybrid as a symbol of unity and strength. But others, traditionalists and extremists, questioned the Queen's judgment. They whispered in dark corridors about human influence and the dangers of mixing species. Some even plotted to sabotage what they saw as an unnatural union. Elias spent long hours in meetings with the Queen. She explained the factions, the threats, and the precautions that needed to be taken. Her wisdom and calm demeanor reassured him, but he could feel the weight of the responsibility pressing down on him. "Elias," she said one evening, her glowing hands resting lightly on her stomach, "this child is more than a life. It is a message, a promise of what our two species can achieve together, but that promise will not be easy to protect. There are those who will see us as a threat, not an opportunity." "I understand," Elias replied, his voice steady. "I'll do whatever it takes to ensure your safety and the child's. I won't let anyone harm either of you." The Queen looked at him, her eyes filled with both trust and concern. "Good. You must be ready for challenges we cannot yet see. Trust your instincts, but also trust the child. Its presence will guide us in ways even I cannot predict." Elias left the meeting with a mix of awe and apprehension. He could feel the subtle changes around him. The city seemed more alert, the guards more focused, and even the ordinary citizens moving with a quiet energy that was hard to explain. It was as if the child, though still unborn, had begun to influence the world already. The first real test came quickly. A Xyler supply ship, carrying essential materials for the Queen's palace, was sabotaged during transport. Explosions rocked the ship, and communications were lost for hours. Fortunately, thanks to the vigilance of Elias and the loyalist Xyler guards, the crew was rescued, but the message was clear. Not everyone welcomed this hybrid child. Elias studied the wreckage reports with the Queen. "This was deliberate," he said. "Someone wanted to send a message, but who and why now?" "The factions are restless," the Queen replied. "They fear change, they fear the child's potential. We must remain vigilant." Elias could see the logic, but he also felt the tension tighten around him. The stakes were no longer political, they were personal. Every decision could affect lives, not only of the queen and her child, but also countless others who believed in the fragile hope of unity. As days passed, Elias noticed strange occurrences that defied simple explanation. Devices malfunctioned near the queen, only to work perfectly moments later. Lights would flicker in patterns that seemed deliberate. Even some Xylar guards reported sensations of heightened awareness, a feeling that the palace itself was attuned to the child within the queen. "This is unusual," Elias remarked during one strategy session. "Are these effects from the child?" The queen nodded slowly. "Yes. The child is aware. Even now it is learning, interacting with the world around it. Its presence is subtle but powerful. It is already shaping outcomes, influencing events in ways we cannot fully measure." Elias felt a mix of amazement and unease. He had faced powerful Xylar technology and even the most advanced human machines, but this was different. This was life-shaping reality itself. Despite these strange phenomena, Elias knew danger was never far. Extremist factions on the Xylar side continued plotting. Human intelligence networks detected whispers of sabotage and disinformation campaigns aimed at sowing distrust between humans and Xylar. Someone, or something, wanted the fragile truce to collapse. Elias spent long hours coordinating security. He created contingency plans, assigned loyalist Xylar guards to key positions, and even trained select human operatives to work discreetly alongside Xylar forces. He also kept close watch on the queen, ensuring she was protected from threats both seen and unseen. One evening, while walking through the palace gardens with the queen, Elias spoke quietly. "Do you think the extremists will act soon?" "They may," she replied, her voice calm but serious. "They are impatient, unwilling to wait for the child's birth. But even if they act, they underestimate what the child represents and what it can do. Do not fear them. Fear comes from misunderstanding. Understanding brings strength." Elias nodded, though he could not shake a feeling of unease. He had faced countless battles, but this was different. This was a war of perception, of loyalty, of hope versus fear. Every step he took, every decision he made, had consequences far beyond anything he had imagined. As the days turned into weeks, the queen's pregnancy progressed. The child's presence became more pronounced. Strange phenomena increased. Small objects moved slightly on their own. Patterns in light and energy shifted subtly. And some humans and Xylar alike reported unusual clarity of thought when near the queen. "Commander," said one of the Xylar scientists during a briefing, "we are observing interactions we cannot fully explain. The child appears to influence our instruments, our calculations, and even biological responses. It is extraordinary." Elias felt both awe and concern. He had always believed in the potential for humans and Xylar to work together, but now that potential seemed intertwined with forces beyond ordinary understanding. He realized that protecting the child meant more than guarding against physical threats. It also meant safeguarding the potential for peace, progress, and trust. Late one night, Elias patrolled the palace perimeter. The twin moons reflected off the crystal towers, casting long shadows across the city. He paused, looking at the stars above, thinking about the enormity of what was happening. A child, not yet born, was already changing the world, and somewhere unseen, enemies were preparing their next move. Suddenly, a faint signal appeared on his comm device, encrypted, almost invisible. Elias decoded it quickly. It was a warning from a loyalist Xylar contact. A faction was moving against them, planning an attack to disrupt the palace's security systems. The timing was precise. They wanted to strike tonight. Elias acted immediately. He mobilized the palace's loyalist guards, rerouted security drones, and reinforced key access points. The palace hummed with activity, yet Elias moved calmly, coordinating each step with precision. He knew panic would be dangerous. Focus was essential. Hours later, the attempted sabotage was thwarted. The extremists had underestimated both Elias and the loyalty of the palace guards. No one was harmed, but the warning was clear. The threat was real and it would not disappear. The queen met Elias after the incident, her glow soft but steady. "You handled this well," she said. "But this is only the beginning. We must remain vigilant. The child is already a beacon, attracting both hope and fear. You must guide the world to choose hope." Elias nodded, feeling the weight of her words. He understood now that his role was not only to protect, but also to lead by example. The child represented a new possibility, a future where humans and Xyler could coexist. But every step toward that future would be challenged by doubt, fear, and aggression. In the days that followed, Elias worked tirelessly. He met with human diplomats, Xyler advisors, and security teams, ensuring that everyone understood their roles and responsibilities. At the same time, he spent quiet moments with the Queen, discussing the child's development and the strange phenomena surrounding it. The palace became a place of both wonder and tension. Luminous lights shimmered with unusual patterns, devices behaved unpredictably, and whispers of the child's presence spread quietly among those who served the Queen. Yet for all the uncertainty, there was also hope. Hope that humans and Xyler could rise above fear. Hope that the child could unify two worlds. Hope that a new era was possible. Elias stood on the balcony one night, looking out at the glowing city and the stars beyond. He knew the road ahead would be filled with challenges, betrayals, and dangers. But he also knew something else, that with courage, wisdom, and trust in the child's potential, they could face whatever came. The uneasy truce had evolved into something greater. It was no longer simply a political arrangement. It was a test of faith, courage, and the human ability to rise above fear. And at the heart of it all was the child, a new life destined to change everything. For Elias Varn, the journey was just beginning. And he was determined to see it through, no matter the cost. The palace hummed with quiet energy. Light shifted subtly across the crystalline walls, casting rainbow patterns that danced on the polished floors. Commander Elias Varn walked carefully through the corridors, aware of the heightened alert. The attempted sabotage from weeks earlier had left its mark. Everyone, human and Xyler alike, was on edge. Yet amid the tension, there was an undeniable sense of awe. The Queen's pregnancy was progressing rapidly. Even though the child had not yet been born, its presence was becoming impossible to ignore. Strange phenomena, unexplainable by both human and Xyler science, began occurring around the palace. Small machines would start working on their own, lights would flicker in intricate patterns, and some people reported feelings of clarity, as if their minds were sharper when near the Queen. Elias had witnessed these events firsthand. At first, he had attributed them to coincidence or technical errors. But over time, he realized they were not random. The child, he suspected, was influencing the world around it in subtle yet powerful ways. He found the Queen in the observation chamber looking out at the city below. Her glow was steady, soft, but her eyes held a depth of focus he had never seen before. "Commander," she said without turning, "you have seen it. The signs are becoming stronger." "Yes, Your Majesty," Elias replied, his voice low. "It is extraordinary. I've never seen anything like it. The child, it seems, aware. Even now," the Queen nodded. "Awareness is only the beginning. The child is learning, understanding the world before it even arrives. Its presence is subtle yet powerful. Humans and Xyler alike are feeling its influence." Elias stepped closer, his brow furrowed. "Do you mean it can control things or influence people?" "Not control," the Queen said gently. "Guidance, inspiration. It nudges reality in ways that align with its nature. It has no intention of harm, but it will affect the lives of everyone it touches, and the world around us will change because of it. Elias felt a mix of wonder and unease. He had always believed in human ingenuity and Xylar intelligence, but the idea of a hybrid child altering reality, even subtly, was beyond anything he had imagined. Over the next several days, the palace staff noticed more occurrences. A communications relay repaired itself instantly after a sudden malfunction. A failing energy field stabilized without intervention. Even the flora within the palace gardens seemed to respond to the child, growing faster and more vibrant than expected. "This is incredible," Elias said during a briefing with the Queen and her loyal advisors. "If these phenomena continue, it could be a turning point for both our species. But it also raises concerns. How do we protect the child from those who may not understand its power?" "The answer," the Queen replied, "is vigilance and patience. The child's presence will draw attention, some of it dangerous, but it is also a beacon of hope. Our duty is to ensure the world sees hope, not fear." Elias nodded. He understood her words, but he could not ignore the growing unease. Extremist factions on both sides remained, waiting for the moment they could strike. And the child, though still unborn, had already begun to shift the balance of power in ways no one could fully predict. One evening, Elias was called to the Queen's quarters. She was seated on a low platform, her glowing form illuminating the room. "Commander," she said, "there is something you must see. The child is ready to show its first true sign." Elias' heart raced. "Show its sign?" he asked. "Yes," the Queen replied. "Not everyone will understand it, but you will. Follow me." They walked through the palace corridors to the central chamber, a vast space filled with delicate machinery, luminous displays, and plants that glowed faintly. The Queen gestured to a cluster of devices in the center. "Observe," she said. Elias watched as one of the devices, a small energy scanner, began to flicker and shift on its own. Readings stabilized, fluctuating gently in a pattern that seemed almost deliberate. Then the lights in the chamber began to pulse in rhythm with the energy field. Elias felt a subtle vibration in the floor, as if the palace itself were responding. "This is the child?" he asked, amazed. "Yes," the Queen replied softly. "It is demonstrating awareness, interacting with the environment. Even now, it guides the world around it. This is only the beginning. The child will continue to develop these abilities as it grows." Elias' mind raced. The possibilities were staggering. A child capable of influencing reality, guiding events, and inspiring both humans and Xylar alike could be the key to unity and peace. Yet he also understood the danger. Those who feared the child might try to act against it, and even a single mistake could have catastrophic consequences. The next day, Elias oversaw training exercises with Xylar guards, focusing on scenarios where the child's presence might be threatened. He emphasized calmness, strategy, and vigilance. "Remember," he said to the assembled guards, "this child is not just a life to protect. It is a symbol. It represents hope, understanding, and the potential for our worlds to unite. Treat it with the respect it deserves and stay alert. Threats will come, and we must be ready." The guards nodded, their glowing forms reflecting determination. Elias could see the seriousness in their expressions. They understood the stakes. Meanwhile, human scientists monitoring the child remotely reported unusual neural activity. Even before birth, the child's brain waves were more complex than expected, showing patterns that indicated learning, problem-solving, and perception, far beyond a typical human or Xylar infant. "This is unprecedented," one human scientist said during a secure communication session. "We've never seen anything like this. The child is extraordinary." Elias felt a mixture of pride and apprehension. Extraordinary, yes, but extraordinary also meant vulnerable. They had to ensure the child's safety, and they had to prepare for the reactions of those who might see the child as a threat rather than a gift. Several days later, An unexpected event confirmed the child's influence in a more dramatic way. A sudden solar flare threatened to disrupt the city's energy fields. Normally, such an event would cause chaos, blackouts, and potential danger to the palace. Yet, in the moments of peak activity, the energy fields stabilized themselves. Lights glowed steadily, machinery operated flawlessly, and the plants in the gardens thrived despite the solar interference. Elias and the queen observed the results in silence. "The child," the queen said softly, "has responded. It is guiding the energy, ensuring stability. It is aware of danger, and it acts to maintain balance." Elias shook his head, unable to find words. He had never seen anything like this. The child, not yet born, had already begun to shape events, protect life, and influence outcomes in ways beyond human or Xyler comprehension. "This changes everything," he said finally. "Not just for us, but for everyone. If the child continues to grow like this." "Yes," the queen said, finishing his thought. "It will change the course of history, but we must be patient. We must guide it, protect it, and allow it to develop at its own pace. Fear will only hinder its growth." Elias realized she was right. The child's potential was immense, but so was the responsibility that came with it. They had to balance caution with trust, vigilance with encouragement. Every decision they made would influence the child, and through the child, the future of two civilizations. In the following weeks, the palace became a place of wonder. Lights shimmered in patterns that seemed alive, machines worked with subtle precision, and the people around the queen felt a strange clarity and focus. Even humans and Xyler visiting the palace noticed the unusual calm and harmony. It was as if the child's presence had begun to unify the environment itself. Elias spent long hours observing, studying, and planning. He coordinated with both human and Xyler experts, ensuring the palace remained secure while allowing the child's influence to flourish. He also spent quiet moments with the queen, discussing the child's development, its emerging abilities, and the challenges they would face. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the city, Elias stood with the queen in the observation chamber. The palace glowed with soft light, reflecting off the crystalline walls. "The child is remarkable," Elias said quietly. "I have never seen anything like it, but with power comes danger. We must be ready for what comes next." The queen placed a hand on her glowing abdomen, her expression serene yet serious. "Yes, Commander, danger will come, but the child also brings hope. That hope is stronger than fear, stronger than aggression. It is our duty to protect it, guide it, and help it fulfill its potential. This child is the bridge between our worlds. It will show what is possible when humans and Xyler work together." Elias nodded, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. The child's first signs had revealed its extraordinary potential, but they were only the beginning. The road ahead would be filled with challenges, uncertainties, and dangers. Yet with vigilance, courage, and trust, they could face whatever came, and perhaps witness the birth of a new era. As Elias looked out at the glowing city and the stars beyond, he felt a quiet determination. The child was more than a life to protect, it was a promise, a beacon and a force that could reshape the universe. And he would stand by the queen, by the child, and by hope itself, no matter what trials lay ahead. The tranquility of the palace was shattered in an instant. Alarms blared, red lights pulsing across the crystalline walls. Elias Varn was already at the command station, scanning the incoming data with tense precision. "They're here," a Xyler guard reported, his voice steady but alert. "Multiple vessels approaching. Unidentified hostile signatures, they're targeting the palace." Elias' jaw tightened. "Prepare defenses, alert the queen, all loyalist forces stand ready." The queen appeared beside him, her glow more intense than usual. "I felt it," she said quietly. "The child senses danger. Be ready, Elias. This attack is not random. They want to disrupt everything we are building." Elias nodded, moving quickly. The palace's defensive grid activated with a hum. Energy shields shimmered over the towers, and automated defense drones took positions along the perimeter. He could see the approaching ships on the tactical display, sleek, black, and fast, designed for one purpose: destruction. "This is no ordinary strike," Elias muttered. "They've coordinated. Someone planned this carefully." "Yes," the Queen replied. "The extremist factions will not wait. They fear the child and they fear what it represents, but we will not fail. Remember, Elias, trust the child. Its presence will guide us." The first wave of attackers arrived in orbit, opening fire on the palace shields. Explosions rippled across the energy barriers, but the palace held. The defenders, human and Xylar alike, moved with precision, coordinating attacks against the enemy vessels. Elias led from the command center, directing squads, calculating movements, and anticipating enemy actions. Despite the chaos, he felt a strange calm. The Queen's words echoed in his mind: "Trust the child." He had begun to understand that the child, even before birth, could influence events. In the palace courtyard, the Xylar guards faced ground assaults. Extremist soldiers, equipped with advanced technology, attempted to breach key access points. The loyalists, trained under Elias' guidance, held their positions, using strategy, coordination, and sheer determination to repel the attackers. Suddenly, the energy shields flickered. A massive surge threatened to collapse the system, leaving the palace exposed. Elias clenched his fists, scanning the readings. Then, without warning, the shields stabilized on their own. "It's the child," the Queen whispered, her glowing form shimmering brighter. "It is protecting us. Trust it, Elias. Trust what it can do." Elias watched in awe as the palace's defenses strengthened in real time, as if guided by an unseen hand. The child's presence was subtle but undeniable, influencing the energy flow, anticipating enemy movements, and providing moments of advantage that kept the defenders one step ahead. Despite these advantages, the attackers were relentless. They adapted quickly, exploiting gaps in the defense and striking with precision. The battle spread from orbit to the palace grounds, turning the normally serene city into a chaotic arena of strategy and survival. Elias moved through the command station, issuing orders, recalibrating defenses, and coordinating with human and Xylar forces. Every decision counted. Every second mattered. One mistake could cost lives, including the Queen and the child. In the midst of the chaos, Elias saw a group of attackers approaching the Queen's quarters. Without hesitation, he activated the rapid response team, directing loyalist Xylar guards to intercept. The battle in the corridors was intense, with energy blades and shields clashing in a dazzling display of light. The Queen remained calm, her focus on the child. Her glow intensified, illuminating the room and casting intricate patterns across the walls. Elias noticed that the attackers seemed hesitant, confused by the energy radiating from her. It was as if the child itself was creating a protective barrier, guiding their actions and influencing the outcome. "Elias," the Queen called over the comm, "focus on coordination. Let the child guide us. Do not hesitate." He nodded, taking a deep breath. Every movement, every command was now intertwined with the child's influence. He directed reinforcements to critical points, anticipated enemy maneuvers, and watched as the palace responded in ways he could not fully explain. Meanwhile, the attackers tried a new tactic. They attempted to overload the palace's energy conduits, aiming to create a catastrophic collapse. But once again, the child intervened, subtly stabilizing the systems. Lights pulsed, energy fields aligned, and the machinery responded instantly, keeping the palace intact. Elias realized that the child's awareness was not limited to its immediate surroundings. It could sense danger, predict actions, and guide responses in real time. The attackers were skilled, but they were no match for a force that was both intelligent and instinctive, both human and Xylar. Hours passed, and the battle raged on. Both sides suffered losses, but the loyalists maintained their positions. Elia's coordinated strikes that repelled the attackers' advances, while the Queen's presence continued to inspire both humans and Xylar. It was a synergy of strategy, courage, and unseen guidance that turned the tide. At one point, Elias found himself face to face with the leader of the extremist faction, a Xylar whose eyes burned with anger and fear. They clashed in the palace corridors, energy blades sparking against shields. Elias' training and experience gave him the advantage, but he could feel the child's presence subtly influencing the fight, providing him with intuition, timing, and precision beyond his own capabilities. With a final, calculated move, Elias disarmed the extremist and held him at bay. "You will not harm the queen or the child," he said firmly. "Leave now or face the consequences." The extremist hesitated, sensing the presence that emanated from the queen and her child. Slowly he backed away, retreating to regroup with his forces. The immediate threat was neutralized, but Elias knew it was only the beginning. As the last of the attackers were repelled, the palace was quiet once more. The glow of the queen and the subtle vibrations of the palace reminded everyone that the child had intervened, guiding them through the chaos. The queen approached Elias, her expression serene but serious. "You see, Elias, the child is not just a life to protect. It is a force for balance, a guide for what is possible, but our work is far from over. Extremists will continue to challenge us. We must remain vigilant." Elias nodded, exhaustion creeping into his bones. "I understand, but the child, it's more than I imagined. Even now it is shaping the outcome, protecting everyone." "Yes," the queen said softly, "and it will continue to do so. But remember, Elias, the child cannot fight alone. We must guide it, protect it, and ensure that it grows in safety and wisdom. Its potential is limitless, but it requires care and trust." In the following days, the palace began repairs. Damaged energy conduits were restored, security protocols updated, and the city slowly returned to normal. Yet the events of the battle left a mark on everyone. Humans and Xylar alike had witnessed something extraordinary. They had seen the child's influence firsthand, and they could not ignore it. Elias continued his duties, coordinating with loyalist Xylar and human operatives to strengthen defenses and monitor potential threats. He also spent quiet moments with the queen, observing the child's development and noting subtle changes in energy patterns, environmental shifts, and the reactions of those around them. The child's first intervention had demonstrated its power, but it also revealed the dangers ahead. Extremist factions, fearful and desperate, would not stop. They would continue to plot, waiting for the next opportunity. Elias realized that every day, every hour, and every decision mattered more than ever. One evening, as Elias patrolled the palace grounds, he reflected on the battle. He had faced many enemies in his career, pirates, rebels, and rival forces, but nothing compared to this. This was not a simple fight for territory or resources. This was a battle for the future, for the hope of unity, for a life that represented the potential of two civilizations. The palace shimmered in the light of the twin moons, a beacon of resilience and strength. Elias knew that the child's influence would continue to grow, guiding events and shaping the world in ways that were both subtle and profound. But with that growth came responsibility, vigilance, and courage. He returned to the observation chamber, where the queen awaited. Her glow was soft, serene, yet imbued with power. She smiled at him, a mixture of pride and reassurance. "The child has shown its first sign," she said. "It has guided us, protected us, and demonstrated the potential within. But this is only the beginning. Our work is not over, Elias. The true test lies ahead." Elias nodded, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. He had witnessed the child's abilities, seen its guidance in action, and understood the responsibility that came with it. The challenges ahead would be greater, but so too would the opportunities. As he looked out at the glowing city and the stars beyond, Elias felt a quiet determination. The child was more than a life to protect, it was a force, a promise, and a beacon of hope. And he would stand by the queen, by the child, and by the vision of a future where humans and Xyler could unite, no matter the trials that awaited. The crisis had tested them, revealing danger, courage, and extraordinary potential. But it had also confirmed something vital. With trust, vigilance, and guidance, the child could change everything. And the journey toward that future was only beginning. The palace was quiet, but the air was heavy with anticipation. Weeks had passed since the crisis, and while the city had recovered, everyone knew that a pivotal moment was approaching. The queen's pregnancy had reached its final stage, and the child's presence had grown stronger with each passing day. Lights shimmered more vividly, subtle energy flows pulsed through the palace, and even the citizens outside seemed to sense that something extraordinary was about to happen. Commander Elias Varn walked through the corridors, checking on the preparations. The palace had become a center of vigilance, with loyalist guards at every critical point, human and Xyler operatives working together seamlessly. Yet amid the heightened security, there was also an atmosphere of awe. Everyone felt the importance of the coming birth, not just for the queen and the child, but for the future of both civilizations. "The preparations are complete," reported a senior Xyler guard, his luminescent form steady and calm. "All protocols followed. Palace defenses are fully operational. The queen is secure." Elias nodded. "Good. We cannot take anything for granted. This child represents more than life. It is hope, and hope must be protected at all costs." He entered the chamber where the queen rested. Her glow was soft, a radiant calm enveloping her as she sat upon her platform. Elias approached, bowing respectfully. "Commander," she said, her voice melodic but firm, "the moment is near. The child is ready to enter the world. Are you prepared?" Elias felt a shiver of anticipation. "I am, Your Majesty. We have trained, planned, and prepared for this. But I also feel awe. I have never experienced anything like this." The queen smiled gently. "Awe is natural. What is about to happen will change everything. But remember, Elias, our trust in the child is as important as our vigilance. Its presence will guide us if we allow it." The chamber was filled with light, energy, and quiet hums from the palace itself. The child's presence was palpable now, a subtle vibration in the air that resonated with life, hope, and intelligence far beyond its age. As the labor began, Elias coordinated with human and Xyler medical teams, ensuring every precaution was in place. Despite the calm confidence of the queen, the tension was undeniable. Every movement, every sound, every pulse of energy mattered. Hours passed. The palace, normally a place of serene beauty, was now alive with focused activity. Medical teams monitored vital signs, energy flows, and environmental stability. Elias moved among them, issuing instructions, observing patterns, and ensuring that everything aligned perfectly. Then, in the quiet moments between contractions, something remarkable occurred. The energy in the chamber shifted. Lights pulsed rhythmically, devices stabilized perfectly, and even the plants in the room seemed to lean closer, as if aware of the child's imminent arrival. "The child is ready," whispered the queen, her glow intensifying. "Feel it, Elias. Its presence guides everything. Trust it." Elias felt the subtle vibration, a sense of clarity and purpose that filled him from head to toe. This was no ordinary birth. This was the arrival of a life capable of influencing the world, a being that could bridge species, inspire unity, and shape the future. With precise coordination, the teams moved forward. The queen's efforts, the medical expertise, and the guidance of the child itself created a rhythm that carried them through each stage. Elias remained at her side, offering reassurance, guidance, and support. Finally, after hours of focused effort, The moment arrived. A soft cry, unlike anything Elias had heard before, filled the chamber. It was not just a sound, it was a vibration, a pulse, a resonance that seemed to touch every corner of the palace. The child had entered the world. Elias looked at the newborn in awe. The child's form was delicate, yet there was an unmistakable presence, a force that seemed to radiate intelligence, awareness, and calm power. Its eyes opened briefly, and in that instant Elias felt something extraordinary, a connection, a recognition that transcended species. "This is remarkable," Elias whispered. "The child, it's aware." The queen smiled, tears of joy in her eyes. "Yes, Elias, the child is aware, and already it is beginning to influence the world around it. Look." Elias watched as subtle movements occurred around the chamber. Devices aligned perfectly, energy flows stabilized, and even the lights and colors seemed to adjust in harmony with the child's presence. The newborn had already begun to shape its environment, guiding events with instinctive precision and gentle awareness. Outside the chamber, word spread quickly. Humans and Xyler, hearing the news, approached cautiously. There was a mixture of fear, wonder, and hope. They had been told the child would be extraordinary, but experiencing its presence was beyond any imagination. Even those skeptical before could not deny the subtle changes, the calm, the clarity, the harmony that radiated from the newborn. Elias stood beside the queen, feeling both pride and responsibility. The child was more than a symbol. It was a force, a promise, and a bridge between two worlds that had long been divided. In the following days, the palace became a center of fascination and inspiration. Scholars, diplomats, and citizens visited under controlled conditions, observing the child and noting subtle phenomena. Energy patterns shifted, devices stabilized on their own, and individuals often reported moments of clarity or insight when near the child. It was as if the newborn was teaching, guiding, and inspiring, even without words. "This is incredible," said one human scientist during a briefing. "The child's awareness and influence are unlike anything we have ever seen. It is already shaping its environment, guiding systems, and inspiring those around it. We must study it, but carefully and with respect." Elias nodded. "Respect is key. The child is not a tool or an experiment. It is a life, and it carries the potential to unite our species. Our duty is protection, guidance, and trust." The queen looked at Elias, her eyes shining with pride and hope. "Yes, Elias, this is the beginning. The child will grow, learn, and shape the future. But it is not alone. With your guidance and the support of both humans and Xyler, it will thrive." In the weeks that followed, the palace became a symbol of unity. Humans and Xyler worked together, inspired by the child's presence. Collaborative projects began, shared research, combined defense strategies, and new diplomatic initiatives. The child's influence, subtle but undeniable, encouraged cooperation and understanding. Elias observed all of this with a mix of awe and determination. The challenges were far from over. Extremist factions still existed, and there were threats beyond the palace. Yet the child had already proven that hope, intelligence, and unity could surpass fear, aggression, and division. One evening, Elias stood with the queen on a balcony overlooking the city. The twin moons reflected off the crystalline towers, painting the city in gentle light. "The child's presence, it changes everything," Elias said quietly. "I've seen fear turn into trust, doubt turn into hope, and it's only just beginning." The queen nodded. "Yes, the child will continue to grow and its influence will expand. But we must remember our role: protect, guide, and inspire. This is the foundation of the new era." Elias felt a quiet determination settle over him. The journey had been difficult, fraught with danger, uncertainty, and responsibility, but it had led to this moment. The child was here, alive, aware, and already shaping the world. And with courage, vigilance, and trust, humans and Xyler could finally move toward a future of unity and collaboration. The city below began to hum with quiet energy, reflecting the harmony and balance inspired by the newborn. Humans and Xyler alike felt the change. Conversations became more cooperative, plans more inclusive, and even disagreements were approached with empathy and understanding. The child's presence had not only protected the palace, but had also begun to guide the hearts and minds of those who witnessed it. Elias turned to the queen, his expression resolute. "We've faced danger, challenges, and doubt, but now we have hope. The child has given us a chance to build something new, something better, and I will do everything to protect it and our future." The queen placed a hand on his shoulder, her glow radiant. "I know, Elias. Together we will ensure this child thrives, and through it a new era will begin." And so the palace stood as a beacon of hope, a symbol of unity, and the birthplace of a child who would change everything. From that day forward, humans and Xyler worked together, inspired by the presence of life that carried within it the promise of cooperation, understanding, and limitless potential. The crisis had passed, but its lessons remained. Courage, vigilance, and trust had guided them through danger. Now, as the child grew, so too did the possibilities for a future defined not by conflict, but by unity, innovation, and hope. Elias watched the child sleep, a soft glow emanating from its form. He knew the road ahead would be filled with challenges, but also triumphs. The child's first breaths had already begun to shape a new world, and he would be there to witness, protect, and guide that journey every step of the way. For the first time in decades, humans and Xyler truly believed in something greater than themselves. A new era had begun.